Hi, welcome to Katonic. In this tutorial, you will learn how to use Katonic Studio to assemble pipelines from Python notebooks or scripts without the need for any coding. A typical machine learning pipeline begins as a series of preprocessing steps followed by experimentation, optimization, and finally deployment. Each of these steps represents a challenge in the model development lifecycle. Katonic Studio provides a pipeline visual editor for building AI pipelines from notebooks, Python scripts, and R scripts, simplifying the conversion of multiple notebooks or scripts files into batch jobs or workflows. Let's get started. This is Katonic MLOps Platform. To begin setting up a notebook to work with Katonic Studio, proceed to the Workspaces section. Create a new workspace. Give your workspace an informative name. Select environment as Jupyter Lab. Select image as Katonic Studio. Select the number of CPU and the memory you want to allocate to notebook and proceed to create. Once you create a workspace, it will be in the processing stage. You can connect to the workspace and launch the Jupyter environment once it is in running state. Proceed to click on Connect. This is your Jupyter environment. We will now work with provided examples in the workspace. You can directly use these examples for your experimentation. Files and data can be created or imported into environment. To clone a Git repository, click on the Git icon on the left bar. Click on the Clone a Repository button. Enter the clone URL and click on Clone. This will clone the whole repository into the workspace. You can access the repository from the file browser in the left bar. Now let's start with creating pipelines. A pipeline comprises one or more nodes that are connected to define execution dependencies. Each node is implemented by a component and typically performs only a single task, such as loading data, processing data, training a model, predicting, or sending an alert. For this tutorial, we will work with one of the experiments in the examples folder. Let's go ahead with Amazon revenue example. To begin, first let's select Katonic Studio in the launcher. This will open the Visual Pipeline Editor. In the Pipeline Editor, open the Properties panel on the right side. Here in the Pipeline Properties tab, you can enter a pipeline description. Let's proceed towards the component palette on the left-hand side. There are multiple component entries, one for each supported file type. Drag the notebook component entry onto the canvas and hover over the node. The error messages are indicating that the node is not yet configured properly. Select the newly added node on the canvas. Right-click and select Open Properties from the context menu. Browse to the file location. Navigate to the required directory and select Load Data Notebook. In Runtime Image, choose Pandas. The runtime image identifies the container image that is used to execute the notebook or Python script when the pipeline is run on kubeflow pipelines or Apache Airflow. This setting must always be specified, but is ignored when you run the pipeline locally. If the container requires a specific minimum amount of resources during execution, you can specify them here. If desired, you can customize additional inputs by defining file dependencies and environment variables. For a component, you can leave a note using the Comment button. Select the component. Click on the Comment button on the top and add your remarks. You successfully added a notebook file component to the canvas using the palette. You can also add Jupyter notebooks, Python scripts, or R scripts to the canvas by dragging and dropping from the Jupyter Lab file browser. From the Jupyter Lab file browser, drag and drop the pre-processed notebook onto the canvas. Customize the file's execution properties. Connect the output port of the load data node to the input port of the pre-processing node to establish a dependency between the two notebooks. Proceed to save the pipeline. Up until now, we have learned how to create pipeline components and connect the components. In this section, we will see how the end-to-end Amazon revenue forecasting pipeline is implemented. Open Amazon Revenue Pre-Built Pipeline for Amazon Revenue Forecasting use case from the File Manager. To open any of the components' notebook file, double-click on them. In every component, you should read the output from the previous step and save the results of the current step. Let's understand each of these components further. Load Data loads Amazon Revenue data from GitHub and validates the data. It then saves the result in a CSV file. Preprocess checks for null values and renames columns. You can add any type of preprocessing in this component. Here also the output is saved in a CSV file. Train and Test splits the data into train and test. Here in Model Training, FB Profit package is installed as it's not a part of the base Python image. You can also add a new image that contains FB Profit package from Runtime Image and add that image to the component. We then train the FB Profit model with Amazon Revenue data. In predictions, the trained model is loaded and used to predict the future revenue. Send Alert sends an alert message to your Slack channel with the prediction results. The pipeline is now ready to run. Proceed to save the pipeline. We have seen how the generic pipeline and Amazon Revenue Forecasting pipeline is built. Now you will learn how to run a pipeline in the kubeflow runtime environment. You can run pipeline from the button available in the top bar. Enter pipeline name. Select Runtime Platform as kubeflow pipelines and click on the OK button. Pipeline ID is now submitted to kubeflow environment. Click on OK to proceed. You can view the pipeline run from the Run section in the platform. To open it from the platform, navigate to the left sidebar. In the sidebar, go to Jobs and then to the Run section. You will see a list of all pipeline runs. A successful pipeline run will have a green tick next to it. Open the run you want to view. You can select any component you want and see the visualizations and logs for each of them. This concludes your tutorial on creating pipelines from Notebook using Katonic Studio.